What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel where I talk about consulting and share lessons, tips, and tricks as a freelance consultant slash entrepreneur. So in today's video, we are going to cover 5 things I hate about consulting and 5 things I love about it. So if that's interesting to you and you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. With that said, let's hop right into it. All right, so the very first thing I just absolutely hate about consulting. We're gonna start with the negatives first, okay? The number one thing that I just absolutely hate is the mental and physical demands on your body, right? People don't realize it, but consulting by nature, the projects that you work on are gonna be difficult, gonna be hard and complex. No client is gonna go and hire and spend all this money for consultants to do easy work, right? They have their own people to do that. So by nature, every single project you're gonna be working on, there's gonna be a lot of ambiguity, there's gonna be a lot of complexities, and there's a lot of pressure. So by default, it's gonna be very demanding, and it's gonna be both demanding on your mental health and your physical health, because sometimes you can't control the unknowns, and next thing you know, you're working 60, 80-hour weeks, sometimes even more, on top of all the other stresses that comes with the work itself. So that's my number one thing I hate, because you can talk to any consultant out there, they're either gonna look unhealthy or they're gonna have trouble balancing between their work and their life and not really taking good care of themselves, right? So, I mean, we get this luxury of being able to compensate our meals and everything else. So you have this habit of just eating out all the time, eating unhealthy, and just drinking a lot of caffeine, right? So all these elements is completely damaging to your personal health. And over time, that adds up. So that's number one. It's really just the absolute demands on your mental and physical health, and it just really shortens your life. So number 2 is politics. And oh my gosh, you know what? That is one of the things I hate, is the politics. You can't avoid it. In any other company that you work for, there's always gonna be politics. But when you work for a consulting firm, whether it's privately held or public, because you're working with people, strictly with people, right? Consulting companies, their assets are their people. So there's gonna be so much politics, so much favoritism, and then because there's so much of a hierarchy, there's always gonna be someone that you have to please, right? Or make a connection in order to get sponsorships, to be able to sponsor your promotion or your raise, and you have to know how to play this game. But a lot of people play favorites, right? So you have to learn to play the game in order to move up the ladder, right? And honestly, if you just hate the politics, well, consulting is not it, because not only do you deal with internal politics, you're dealing with external politics, meaning that there's client politics, that when you're working on a project, you're dealing with those politics on top of your internal politics. And it drives me nuts, drives me up the wall when you see people who are taking advantage of that, and whether it's like they're smarter than you or not because they know how to play the game, it's unfair, right? At the end of the day, to see people who may not have worked as hard or get the right credit, but because they know the right people and the right connection, they move ahead of you. And it's a dog eat dog, dog world right now, right? So I mean, it's like you have to fend for yourself. And so it's just one of those things where I just absolutely hate it over the years, and it will never change, right? I learned to accept it, but just want to let you know, the second thing I really hate about consulting is politics. Now, number 3 is all about traditions and cultures that carry over, like old traditions. That's the third thing I hate about consulting, is that depending on the company that you work for, sometimes the old way of doing things affects what's happening today. So many times that I got into conflict with different opinions or thoughts of work ethic and work habits with other partners, other executives. I'll give you a specific example. Consulting in general had this weird mindset, like these people who've been in the game for a really long time, the new generation coming in, when they see you working long hours, they have this perception that you're hardworking, right? And that long hours is expected in this line of work. I was trying to change that culture and shift it, meaning that I wanted to work more efficiently. So the moment I created a team where I said, I don't want any of my team members to work more than 40, 45 hours a week, no more. If they are working overtime, I need to know. Because either one, they're not doing the work correctly or they're just inefficient. And then we have a lot of bodies, right, people. Why can't we help each other? I mean, so my team over time became so efficient that I had a team member who left at 5:30 p.m. on a project, and then I had a colleague, a peer, another executive that says, hey, Tom, that person's leaving. I was like, yeah, what about it? It's 5:30. Yeah. But then they were like accusing them basically of leaving work early, that they're lazy, that there's not enough work for them. I was like, no, that person did 3 or 4 things that are critical functions in my business, and he always does it well. So I had a debate with this person, like, why do we feel like the need and obligation to have to work long hours? But because that's how they've always been doing it. They talk about perception and that it'll look bad. I'm like, no one cares. They just care about getting the work done and doing it right. So I got tired of these like old traditions and mindsets that consulting has to be about working long hours and being perceived as if you're busy or have tons of work to do because you're a consultant, right? So yeah, that's number 3. It's the old traditional way of thinking of how consulting should be. So number 4 is really about how projects are being managed. When we sell a proposal or a project deal, and then we start to do the resource mix, all of a sudden the people become numbers. That's number 4. Treating people as if they're like just numbers. They're just full-time employees, hours attached to them, without the consideration about talking to the person whether or not it is the right role, the demands of the role, and really understanding that that particular effort may kill them, right? Without even realizing it. They have no say in the game. They're just little pieces of on a chessboard. You just move them there without any type of consultation whether or not it's even a right fit. So before they even get to sign up, next thing you know, what you anticipate to be a 40-hour effort ends up being like an 80-hour effort. And so I got really tired that we're treating our people as if they're numbers, right? At the end of the day, consulting is all about people, their assets, right? So they just look at them as full-time FTE for short, full-time employees with a number attached to them and a certain billable rate, right? So like if you're an expensive rate or a lower rate, they'd rather put someone cheap in terms of like being a lower cost to a client, but they're less capable of doing the work versus just doing it right by putting the right person that has the right skills. And that's just how the client have to be charged for that skill set, right? But then they're all about lowering their costs so they can maximize their margins. So if they say, how can we get away with bringing in a lot of, I wouldn't say lower skilled, but less experienced resources just to save costs, but it's gonna cost more in terms of hours and the well-being of those people. So that's number 4. The 4th thing I really hate is that we really just treat them as numbers. And that's not how it should be. So number 5 is retention. What people don't realize that in the consulting field, there's a natural attrition rate anywhere between 17 to 20%, meaning that if you work for a firm that has 200,000 people in it globally, that means close to 40,000 people leave the firm. Now they get recycled because they're gonna go to other consulting companies, but the fact is that's a 20% loss every year, every time. I mean, it's just turnover rate. And what I hate about retention is that what I notice is that your highest performers are the first one to go because they're the ones who are working their butts off. They're delivering great value to the client and they're just asking to be appreciated or compensated appropriately. And then they get burned out because they're putting so much effort into it. Yet the problem is that companies aren't doing a good job of retaining the best people and talent. So they get so burned out, they don't take care of them, they end up leaving. And what is left behind? Well, guess what? You're gonna get the lower skilled or less hardworking employees in a consulting company left behind because they're comfortable, they're cushy, right? They're not willing to go up to the next level. And when you're working in the people business, it's gonna be bound to happen. Not every consultant is gonna be your highest performers, right? But the ones who are the high performers, I notice time and time again, they do very little to try to retain them. And it's sad. It's sad to see because you lose your best people. So I see that more often than not. Though you could be a replaceable, they always look at you as being a replaceable asset, right? A resource. But they don't realize how critical that person is when it comes to their specialization and their impact to the business until they're gone. So that's number 5, is the lack of retention. That's the thing I hate about consulting, is that we don't do a very good job in keeping the best people. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what I love about consulting, right? The very first thing I love about consulting is the people. And I mentioned it, how my things I hate about. You notice that it gravitates towards people, right? Because it's the only thing that drives that business. It's the only assets that they have. People with skills, people that can do the work. So because of that nature, what I love about the field is that you're working with some like-minded people, hardworking people, ambitious people. And you have to say that, you know, the environment makes a good part of your personal growth. And they always talk about how you surround yourself with people that can help elevate you. And that's what consulting provides, right? You're always given a career counselor for someone who's like 1 or 2 levels above you to coach you through your career. You have the ability to coach people below you. Everything is just about people and people development, and that you're just gonna grow and you make these personal connections. You're in the trenches with them when you're working hard. Every single consulting company I've been with, it's always been the hardest to leave them because of the relationships you build and the people. So that's my number 1 thing I love about consulting. So number 2 is opportunity. The opportunity to travel, see the world, the opportunity to work on different projects within the same industry. So you're gonna build this worldly view, this broad view, because over time, you're gonna have all these opportunities to see how businesses are run with clients, different industries, different locations, different cultures, and really just have the opportunity to play different roles within a project. Because one day you could be a project manager, next thing you know, you could be an analyst, another one, a tech lead, another one. You might be working on different accounts, doing some account management, working on design, working on implementation. You get to play different hats, so there's a lot of great opportunities in consulting, and you're always constantly learning. It's never ending. It's like continuous learning while you're getting paid. So I think that's one of the things I love about consulting, because you never feel complacent. You always feel like there's always something new, whether the project was good or bad, there's always something to take away from. So that's number 2, great opportunity. So number 3 is basically the chance to develop your personal skill sets. You know, you'll be able to level up all the time, working on your soft skills, polishing up your executive level presence, hosting client meetings, be really good with, you know, communication. All these things you can work on your soft skills and management skills and leadership skills, because there is a very clear path in your personal development. And I think that you just never feel like you're once again complacent in terms of your own skill sets. You're always going to be growing, and you're just building new skills. You're always becoming more valuable at every level as you grow in your career in consulting. So that's really the third main thing I love about it, is really just the ability to grow professionally and personally. My fourth thing I love about consulting is that there's a very clear career trajectory. The path to partnership is very, very clear. Now, every rank, we're talking about 2 or 3 levels, you're going to get promoted and get raises. You don't even have to ask for it. It's all performance-based. So every 2 or 3 years, you level up. You go up to the next rank. You know, you start off as an analyst. In some cases, they call staff members, or whatever the lower entry-level consultant. Every consulting company has the same type of tiers to some degree. You always start with that. Then you go to a consultant level, which is like anywhere between your 3rd to 5th year, somewhere between there. And usually around your 4th or 5th year, you get promoted to manager. And then you have the responsibilities of like managing people below you. right? Within 5 years, and then 2 or 3 years from there, within your 7th or 8th year, you hit senior executive, a senior manager, which is like a level below partnership, and it gets harder and harder as you go. So it's very, very clear. You don't even have to think about it. As long as you do your work, set those goals career-wise with your counselor, because every consulting company has a career counselor who's a few levels above you that can help you with your trajectory. And that's really the fourth thing I love about consulting, is that you know exactly where you're going in your career. My last thing I love about consulting is the fact that I call experience stacking. So as you go on many different projects and over the years, you're continuously stacking your experience, and you're gonna get better and better each time and provide more consulting skill sets, right? Providing the consulting mindset when you go walk into a client. So after 5 to 10 years of experience, you can speak quite intelligently about their industry, about the subject matter that you're on, because you have all this experience stacked up over the years. And you take it for granted. Things become easier, and things that were difficult 4 or 5 years ago is basically just easy stuff by the time you get to the next level, right? So that's the one thing I really love about consulting, is that you will naturally just grow into an expert, and you're just constantly stacking up your experience. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you got something out of this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Those are my 5 things I hate and 5 things I love about consulting. So other than that, I will catch you guys in the next one, and take care, and I'll see you later. Bye.